digital adaptability of Filipinos when the pandemic unexpectedly spun the world is a clear indication of their versatility in the digital sphere. While the highly renowned tech giants who have paved the way to make a living in the digital era happen are concentrated in North America, the Philippines is not one to get left behind. This afternoon, we will have a panel that will give us a clear picture of where the Filipino talent is currently at, how we can further upskill and reskill, and unleash the digital superstars within themselves. Let me introduce the panel for this afternoon. First up, we have Mr. Diego Jose Ramos, who is the Chief Innovation Officer of Impact Hub. We have Miss Alex Gentry, co-founder of Sprout. We have Miss Michelle Rubio, Chief Human Resources Officer of Union Bank. And moderating the panel, we have Mr. Mark Vernon, founder and CEO of Tagcash. Mark, take it away.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm one of the companies that moved to the Philippines in 2012, 8 years ago. So I've firsthand experienced, how I have to handle employing tech people in Philippines. So anyway, with a 37% labor force participation in the country as of 2019, Philippines remains as one of the most sought after talents in the world, and that's one of the reasons I went there. In the past 5 years, we've seen an overshoot of IT professionals due to the competitive salary, great work conditions that the industry has to offer. These talents, when guided properly in the sphere of digital innovation, shall serve as the leaders who are on the front lines, pushing the country as Asia's tech hub. So while there's already a huge chunk of people, not enough for me, but a huge chunk of people are well versed in digital transformation, there's a collective movement among the non-digital natives that must be launched to upskill the nation as a whole. So we need more people trained. So we'll talk about this and other subjects. And I'd like to, for each of you to introduce yourselves. So we'll start with Diego first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diego. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of Impact Hub. I've been headhunting stealthily for critical roles, especially for a sensitive, confidential corporate exercise, which is both tech and C-suite level. So that's why I'm here. I'd love to be part of this one.
And Alexandria, and yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Gentry, co-founder and chief product officer of Sprout Solutions. So Sprout is an HR, payroll, and benefits platform really aimed to address the nuanced market in the Philippines. We are on a big mission where our North Star is to impact the life of every Filipino by improving business in the Philippines.
And Michelle, you have no video, Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Rubio. I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer of Union Bank. So as an institution, we have said that we will leave no one behind, and that means not just teching up our people, but playing an important role in teching up the community. So we have various programs, and we're in contact with various institutions in the country so that we can help upskill the Filipino talent.
Okay, let's thanks all for that. Let's head into some of the questions. So we'll start again with Diego. So the 1.3 million older people in the Philippines must not be forgotten in this initiative of upskilling and reskilling. How can we introduce the digital language to Gen Xers and maybe even baby boomers in an easier and more efficient manner? Am I a baby boomer? I think I'm a baby boomer. I'm not sure.
Part of this, yes. In the Philippines, we may say that we're the social media capital of the world. Everyone is like more, engaged with digital media, but in our corporate culture, nothing has really had that significant change. Mark, I would just like to point out the reason why we weren't able to move in a hyper growth on this matter is that our HR, when they make the hire, it's always they put the requirement, right? In that requirement, it's always similar, both in experience, which is they're very, let's say, uptight about it. And let's say it should qualify for the specific role, nothing that crosses, nothing that they would consider based on attitude from cross industry. That's the reason why we didn't have that kind of like say shift as well. And one of the major showstopper for this one, our corporate HR in general doesn't have policies to make those hiring diverse. We don't have that. It's always based on a requirement. I'd like to I'd like to like ask the opinion of Michelle in Union Bank if they have currently have policies that they can make a hire based from other industries, going to like say totally different department. Is this something that you have, let's say, provisions in your HR that you have allowed time, proof of ROI, training, learning and development? Is this normal? Do you have provisions at the least?
Over to you, Michelle.
I just want to be frame the question. It's about what we need to do to ensure that we develop digital talents across, and the digital talent might be skewed towards the younger generation, the millennials and the Zs, but I also would like to emphasize that we must not forget the generations across the organization because they do add value. And the way to do that is to tech them up. And in Union Bank, we have not made any such distinction. What we were after is reskilling across the organization so that we can transform the organization as fast as we can and reap the rewards of digitization and digital transformation. And so far, it's been great. So after 4 years of doing this, we can say that our team members have digitally adopted. They have acquired agile skills, and that is because we paid attention to two things. Our culture requires people to learn and be open to lifelong learning. The second one is deliberately design our capability roadmap for each job. So it's not just about learning about banking, but it's also learning about the new skills. Like I'd like to mention blockchain, data science, AI, robotics. These are all new technologies, but these are not new to our people, regardless of age and tenure.
One thing that I would like to add to, sorry, to the baby boomers, a big pillar of talent mobility is the ability of the organization to recognize institutional knowledge. And if we keep that in mind, if the organization keeps that in mind, then it opens up a whole world of opportunity for the older members of the organization.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was going to ask Alexandria. I've seen Sprout growing over the years and attracting a large amount of funding from abroad as well. Can you tell me how or what difference you've made? Why are you different to anyone else, and how you attract new companies to your platform above from anyone else?
Thank you, Mark. I want to answer that two-pronged, right? I think Sprout has a great emphasis and a really, really keen focus on our company culture. I think that because of that, we have been able to attract the right talent and have been able to keep that. Before a few of us were talking about, how hard it is to keep talent, and it's something that is very deeply ingrained, I think, within the culture of the company. If the company has continuous learning, radical candor, really kind of an organization that values results more than everything else, then it's easier to keep the talent. Second one, more around attracting the right partners, the right companies, is that we've been just really keep a very keen focus on solving the pain points within the market that we're in. And that is really, really really, really good attention to the problems of our clients and our customers. I think in both fronts, we've been fairly successful at listening and to customers, and I think that's made a lot of the difference.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before and saying that you can keep people maybe not non-technical. You're talking about non-technical people, sales and other things like that. That's probably easier than trying to keep the digital play, like the developers and stuff like that. So developers have a lot of options open to them to make more money than the average salary. So that's, for me, is more difficult. But yeah, you've done really well to keep the good people. A question for you, Michelle. If we analyze the skills we currently have up to date versus the one we're trying to go for, what do you think the specific skills individuals must possess in order to be competitive in the era of digital revolution? Are people expected to immediately understand and practice concepts of AI, etc.? Because for me, it's just the basics. The education needs to be out there so I can, when I talk to employees, they know what I'm talking about straight away. That's kind of tough at the moment.
Yeah. So I can name 3 classifications of skills that are needed in the 4th industrial revolution. One is obviously business skills. You need that. You need tech skills, and you need business skills. You need to be an entrepreneurial. So if we talk about digital skills, so good you mentioned that. There are different, I think, degrees of knowledge or expertise when it comes to digital. Maybe at the beginning, people should have, as a minimum, people should have an understanding, should have that certain digital literacy to know how things work. They should be fluent with the tools. But as you go deeper into the domain expertise, if you're a programmer, you really have to be an expert in a language. So it's a varying degrees of expertise, I guess, across the organization. And we've created in Union Bank learning roadmaps for each of these domain skills, and that allows people to journey into the skill that he or she wants to learn. In fact, we have not selected. No, you can actually broaden yourself and be developed in 2 or 3 skills across the organization. And that actually helps people be more upskilled and be more educated on the various technologies that are being used right now.
When I first went to the Philippines, I employed my current CEO. She's been with me 8 years. And she said, I want to get into programming and stuff, but she's a business manager, CEO. I said, I don't think that suits you because you'd probably be bored. But and then on the other side, you've got I've had programmers that said I want to become more skilled in certain areas. So the upskilling, depending on what you're doing, when I employ a programmer, a developer, what they're missing often is the conceptualization skills, the business skills that allow them to understand why they're doing something. And on the business side, they should understand at least the tech passage people should go through. So to get there, I guess it must start from the educational side, and maybe a mixture of online education these days, especially online education at school. So Diego, what's your thoughts on where it should start, or at what point, or how it should be done?
Well, Mark, well, it takes me a lot of courage to mention this one. It's kind of a little bit confidential. I'm discussing with a possible CHED candidate in our government system, and he's very, very, let's say, He has a grit really to have a radical change in our education system. It's difficult when I'm doing headhunting to qualify our talent the way we define and qualify our talent with international standards. I'll give you an example, Mark. When I get a job order that says like junior Java developer, okay, to them, to the overseas client, it's always like 4 years continuous Java development experience. Here in the Philippines, they always consider it senior. So there's a big gap in terms of reference. So that misalignment as well made us like doesn't really calibrate us with international standards. And Mark, as you know, you always encourage to start programming from the very earliest age, even in high school and college. I've checked the curriculum. Trust me, Mark, it's always they start programming on the third year.
Yeah.
Doesn't
I'll give you an example of where I came across this. I was doing a hackathon in Legazpi City, and that was both mentoring and judging. 120 students to create solutions for local government, and they're on the third year, some are on the fourth year, and their API knowledge, maybe 5 of those people really had any good knowledge of what APIs do or how could they integrate them and so on. So the tech knowledge on the third level of IT, these are IT college graduates, it wasn't there for me. So if I wanted to employ them, I'd have to retrain them for 6 months to a year. So the educational system, how is that going to adapt so I can get what I want as an employer?
It's not the school's fault. I think it's really the government system that have to have a strong mandate to radically change, because we should catch up with global standards. To me, it's just like that.
So Alex, you were gonna, I know you're dying to say something
Alex,
there.
I'm sure you have thoughts on that one.
Something, right? Yeah, so I agree with Diego, right? I mean, if we rely on the current educational system, it's going to take a while. So I think that there needs to be an acceptance that it'll take a while. Now, the other hope is, again, for regulation to catch up, but that may take a while too. So I think the private industry needs to understand that there is that gap. And, I'm seeing it now. There are a number of organizations that are coming up and are trying to just specifically fill that gap from graduating to being employment ready. And it's probably a 6-month to a 1-year course wherein they either enroll themselves, the students either enroll themselves, or it's subsidized by a company that is looking to hire them. Now, what's been happening in the last how many years is that it's just the company's responsibility then to get them up to speed, right? We all know of, all the Accentures and all the multinationals that hire out of university and then put them into a 6-month or a 1-year training program within Accenture or within the corporation, and then they're ready to work. But I think that there should be more options around for both corporates who can't do that themselves in-house and for these people who are looking for jobs.
So maybe more training. I was recently in Lithuania going through the process of creating an e-money license up there. And one of the questions is, how do I get good people? And I was told by a few people, just take the people that you used to work for. They work for Danske Bank and they've done all the 1 year's training of KYC. And then I can take them on and pay them a little bit more because the bank doesn't pay them enough. So there's a question for Michelle is, you're training up a lot of people internally through the Blockchain Academy and other initiatives. How do you keep them after you got them for 6 months or a year? You train them up and then they go and leave and work for another company.
That's a good question. We do a lot to retain them. Because we have a structure here where we keep people engaged, the kind of culture where you recognize people, we're open, collaborative, but at the same time, we also realize that when they leave, they probably are leaving for better opportunities, and so we have prepared ourselves for that. And sometimes you just have to keep on training people so that you have a pool to pull talents from, and we constantly do the training so that if there's attrition, then we can replace. So we're working also with schools. We don't necessarily have to hire them right away, and we work with schools because when you actually look for talent that is ready, you don't find one straight from the university. So what we've done is to proactively reach out to the university, try to talk to the teachers, get them to participate in use cases so that they know that, hey, there's a gap. And the way to go about it is that what you want is to make your students employable. So change the curriculum so that your curriculum is current, so that you can keep up with the demands of the workforce. It's a long
It's going to take, for the
time,
government to do it, it's going to take a
but
while.
you
I mean,
know it's going to take a while. Yeah.
I've been involved for 25 years in IT education with my first company I created to do online e-learning. Yeah, I didn't want to say. Okay, yeah. But I started that in 1995, because I'm really old. So a lot of copycats since then. But in the Philippines, if the government's not going to do it, then it's going to be up to private industry to provide some of those solutions. So what do you think of online education filling in the gap for Filipinos that can't get to a university, they can't travel to Manila to go to the best places, and so on? What do you think of online education for the digital age, and what specific skills should be taught online? Maybe this is something I can do as well as part of my platform.
Question mark. Is your platform for free?
Partly, and I made it for free in the Philippines. So does it have to be free or cheap?
Yeah. So in the Philippines, one of the stumbling blocks really for further education is really when they're charged extra. Unless there's somebody that just opened the platform just like you for upskilling themselves. But Mark, we may be talking about tech talent here, but it doesn't just mean, I'm sure our audience would say these are just for developers. No, my struggle really is when we hire talent that is supposedly non-digital. I've noticed that straight from school, they don't have the capacity to analyze data. They don't have that. They don't have the capacity to solve complex problems. It's always a school culture and education system that usually spoon feed them.
And that's not going to be solved by online education.
That is true. That is true. So I hope that there's a platform here that will just open up for further education.
What could be a solution? Possibly could be, I mean, something I've noticed over the last 25 years is that we train the faculty to train the students, and that won't be a better bet.
Alex and Michelle and Mark, I'll give you an anecdote to spur fun to this one. In 2013, I brought in the first international hackathon in the Philippines. So I pitched to Smart and PLDT as a partner. I was so surprised that Earl Valencia said yes in less than 5 minutes. The reason why he said yes is he came across a case where a student proposed a mobile application for thesis. But the professor answered, sorry, I don't understand it. Can we just do food cart? This is 2015. You just, so that really, that's why Earl Valencia said yes, no problem. We have to do this to push the industry further.
I know Alex is dying to say something. Go on.
No matter how, sorry.
Really say, okay, there's the functional side of things, right? I mean, we're addressing that with online education, how to code Java, how to do QA, et cetera, how to do the challenger sale. But, Michelle touched on this earlier, the top 10 skills for the fourth industrial revolution is, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, emotional intelligence. And what you're saying, Diego, is that, this may not be able to be solved by online education. I want to challenge that, just because since March this year, everybody has been on remote work or remote learning online.
Yeah.
My kids, who are 7 and 5, who are in a progressive school, have been learning these things online. So I think that there is a way. It's just that the curriculum needs to drastically change.
That's the
It's
key.
not going to change that quickly, though.
Yeah.
No, not that quickly, but I mean, we can see that it can. I mean, just seeing the difference with how remote or virtual learning was done in like first grade, second grade from March to when the school restarted this year has been amazing. You know, so I have hope that there is a way.
Perhaps there's a way of private enterprise to work with governments to actually come up with solutions where you use modern technology and to introduce stuff that they don't actually have in a curriculum, maybe in addition to it, and that might be a faster option. But it's going to take some time. I'm a firm believer in online education. But I think if we train the trainers that to teach the kids some of the skills they need, plus teach them. Okay, you also need to teach the analysis side, all that stuff that I really need.
Correct.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
I think Mark as well. I think one of the like stress points that we need to solve here is like what will make them relevant as well. Not just upskilling or skilling, because like during the lockdown over the few months, we just placed in humanitarian factor, but we needed to let go for two people just because their skill, their role is not relevant anymore. You know how painful is that for organizations to do. So it's a big shift, you know.
That's what I was asking about the Gen Xers, the older people that need to re-skill. But I think older people have life experience and some of those critical analysis skills. So they may have older tech skills or older skills that are not valid anymore, but they've got life experience to bring to bear, and they can be retrained and repurposed. And you probably, Alex, you'd be able to position them in places that can that appreciate those skills.
I think that having a good policy and a good program around career pathing and you're really increasing talent mobility within the company will help all of that. Now, an example of a good talent mobility program is Hootsuite. So what they have is a 90-day borrowing period wherein, let's say, I work in sales, I'm interested in programming. For 90 days, I spend 1 day per week with the engineering team learning programming, and then I have all of these learning plans. So let's say from the sales team, my manager would say, you know what, we really don't understand how the sprint works. I want you to go in there and for every day that you're there for 90 days, learn about that. And then on the flip side, the people from engineering say, we don't really know how you're selling. And so, there's a big exchange in information. And at the end of the 90 days, then the employee makes a decision, right? Do I stay or do I join the other team? I mean, something like this is it's just really, we know that there are companies that are ready to push forward and ensuring that it's easy for employees to not just move, vertically, but also really sideways. So unless a company is flexible enough to try programs like this, I think it'll be hard.
So I was going to ask everyone actually, and a lot of people watching this might be saying, what should I learn? What career path should I go that pays me the most money or gives me the best options for the future? So what do you think the career paths are for, I talk about young people now, say they're going to college and say, what should I be learning that will give me the best salaries in the future, or I'm going to earn more money online or abroad or whatever? Start with, actually I'll start with Michelle, because Michelle, you're going to hire people for specific areas in the bank, but which positions pay the most money?
HR.
Michelle's.
No. I think positions that has something to do with digital, whether it's in the production or producing codes, whether it is in the analytics side, which is data science, whether it's on the front end, which is about design or digital marketing. Definitely digital. The world is changing so fast, and I think apart from digital, I think it doesn't really hurt to be a hybrid talent. A hybrid talent has many skills, meaning and you're not only good in one, but you can be good in two or three, and that actually lends for more employability. So you can be a marketer, but you're also good in analytics. You can be a programmer, but you're good in digital marketing. So it's that the world has a demand for hybrid
So as a young person, recommend you to learn everything.
talent. To learn it,
Go
to
on,
learn
Michelle. Go on,
something
Alex.
that you enjoy most and that you actually think you're good at it.
Now, there are certain skills that suit certain people. Logic may not come so easy to some people. So it depends on their personalities, and it's kind of hard for young people to recognize what they might be good at. So they kind of have to broaden, try and go for quite a few things to decide where they should fit in the future. So, Alex, people are asking you to find good people. Are you finding? Are they asking you for specific skill sets, or maybe across many talents?
Right now is looking for anything digital and data related, right? But I think that will, everything will be digital and data related in the near future, if not now. Whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's design, that all has digital and data in it. So my suggestion really is to focus on learning how to learn. That's the best way. That'll give you the most money. That'll give you the most rewards. Learn how to learn.
And Diego, your advice to young people.
I say that you're like asking two like different questions here. Not to minimize what you have, but I'm just pointing out the keywords that you're trying to point out, because this can be really be significant to your decision in life in like choosing your career. One is, what is a job that pays the most? If we name a role, is it something that you want to do? That's a question. Or it could be a passion project for you, yet you want to earn a lot from that. So no, to me, like Alex would say, no matter what that is, it's something really connected to digital. The future is digital. No, it doesn't have to be programming, because it's like this one. Across all departments and corporations, I don't think everyone gets into data analytics. They don't do methodologies in analyzing data. The basic course in school, what I learned in high school was like in fourth year high school, when I was introduced to research, statistics, the way to get data. I don't think companies embrace the fundamental skills in studying data. I'm being asked regularly for some dating apps on how to put in or beef up their marketing, and I always ask for data, and they just couldn't understand that. Give me a data, then I'll give you the marketing strategy. Because when the next step to that is when you automate, when you learn when a company needs to automate, you learn how to develop new strategy, which is not really very popular now in corporations that are still behind digital transformation. So they're struggling in producing marketing strategy. And I said, why are you struggling in? You're trying to be creative and embrace new concepts of marketing like movement marketing. Why would you do that when you don't have the data? To me, every department, whether it's janitorial department or marketing department, should be data driven. That's just the point that I want to stress.
Interesting. So I think I'm out of questions at the moment, and we can talk about this all day. I mean, one of the things I had a problem with in the Philippines is that people don't question enough, don't ask why, don't query enough. And that's not just in jobs, that's just in general. There's not enough curiosity in solving problems and doing stuff. So yeah, go on, Alex.
Mark, one of the reasons why they're not able to do that, they don't have maybe let's say a benchmark, a standard that they look up to as a reference point. You have to have a reference point for you to create reasons why you should. I'll give you an example without really like Michelle here. In one of the conference I produced, on stage, she said it took only 18 months for Union Bank Philippines to completely transform from traditional to digital. 18 months to transform the whole company. Phenomenal. I think every bank should do that.
Yeah, but if you look at the leader of that bank is Tito Ortiz, and he's definitely different as a chairman. So it comes from the top all the way down. Go on, Alex. You're going to say?
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, you mentioned they're not curious enough. I'm not quite sure if they're not curious enough or there's not enough curiosity versus the non-confrontational part of the culture that is coming into play now. It's important that organizations understand this nuance and are very purposeful about communicating with a company to curb it, right? I mean, like in Sprout, we're huge believers of radical candor. Challenge directly, because here in the Philippines, we have the care personally aspect taken care of. We care personally for everybody. That's just in us. But the challenge directly side is really kind of lacking. And what's important to make managers, leaders understand that, if you're not challenging directly, then that's really a ding against the other person. You're not giving them what they're, what they deserve. And so again, it needs to be some form of a program or a policy that is always reiterated. Like for us, every time we begin a meeting, we always remind everybody, you need to be asking, like thinking of questions and writing down questions about whatever it is that we're talking about, whether or not they get asked or there's time to ask or not. But you need to just train your mind to work that way.
Yeah, one of the maybe as an in-between solution could have a suggestion box, because one of the things I found over the last 20 years in India and in the Philippines is that my employees are scared to ask me directly or to challenge or to say, why are we doing this? Because that makes me think as well. And I want them to do that, but it takes a long time to train them to do that. Michelle, in Union Bank, you have a policy for saying, can you get in touch with the chairman and say, why are we doing this, etc. Radical candor.
Yeah, it's very much an open organization. So we allow the young people in, participate, and it doesn't matter what rank you possess. But if you have a great idea, people listen to you. But you also have to take into account the culture of the Filipinos. So I agree, right? We're non-confrontational, but at the same time, in organizations, we should allow for psychological safety, because it could be a very paternalistic society, and that whatever the boss says, you sort of assume that you cannot question. But
the boss may not always know the best thing.
Exactly.
He needs to welcome that.
So when you are working in an agile environment, you cannot keep on, the solution doesn't come from one person, not the boss. It comes from the collective experience, knowledge, and input of everyone. So it's important for everyone to participate and asking questions, helping create that environment where people participate, and even requiring them to write down your questions is creating that structure, which in turn shapes the behavior or the culture of the organization. So it's really important to have those mechanisms in place.
So to summarize this whole conversation is basically, you've got skills you've got to learn, but it's also you've got the attitude. You've got to have the attitude, the right attitude to get ahead in life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, go on.
Mark, I have a quick anecdote to this one in reference to what we're talking about.
You have a lot of anecdotes.
A few weeks ago, I was invited to take a look at an organization. That's what I do on Stealth. And then I came up with 3 points after doing organizational diagnosis, and they go, can you train my managers? That's just their question. And my answer will always be, why would I need to? They're managers, isn't it? So maybe you're doing a wrong way of promoting a person. Why they put the reason why they're manager, because they should manage themselves and their people. Simple. But most companies don't have that kind of definition to put them in that position. So I think aside from the cultural, it's good. I would rather be, joining Alex's team. Maybe I would apply for Sprout because they have that kind of culture. Not every company has that kind of culture, especially. They have like they can speak to their bosses on a very equal page level. They could speak freely because it's sometimes the culture of the company that prevents them from asking questions and being creative. That's why we have to put in like ideation or like say a hackathon in a company because most people still don't talk, don't think because of culture.
Well, it's been an interesting conversation. So I'd want you to just give me your takeaways for 2021. What are you going to be doing, and what do you think the future holds for next year?
Michelle goes first.
Yeah, Michelle goes. So why not?
Oh, okay. I think 2021 will be another exciting and unprecedented year. No, we're still in the pandemic, but there's a solution being offered in the form of vaccine. So I think it's gonna take a while for us to go back to normal. But at the same time, people are starting to adopt the digital. People are starting to experience what contactless transactions mean, and they're trying to onboard themselves and all of that. And from the old to the young, and trying to become more digital literate. So there's essentially going to be a requirement for skill sets that are in this sphere, in the digital sphere, the data sphere, and it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of young people to onboard themselves and to actually learn, because this is the way of the future. But at the same time, let's not also lose our human skills, because what computers can do, humans must do, and that is the use of empathy, critical thinking, problem solving, communication. Those are important.
So, Alex, what's your plans for next year? Where do you think things are going to change?
The pandemic has brought a lot of pain, a lot of grief, a lot of hardships, but it also has brought about some things that are really positive, right? One of them is like low trust environments like the Philippines. We've seen, has been really more open to digital solutions. We've seen this in payments and a lot of other things. And I think that more than ever, right? And I think that either countries or corporations or organizations with agile policymakers, that are implementing changes towards a more inclusive, a more robust, or a more competitive environment will really gain strides over the next couple of months. So we should really kind of take advantage of that. I'm extremely optimistic.
So for Sprout's going to be growing next year?
Hopefully. We are working like crazy.
I know.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Diego, go on.
Oh, Mark, well, instead of that kind of like prediction, I would rather say I would like to recommend some priorities that HR should consider. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the misjudged or miscalculated points of like an HR, number one would be like the self mastery. They should include like a level of like mental health to the system and resiliency, that level, because of course the pandemic has created a lot of uncertainty. Times has changed.
Then are you promoting Sprout?
Yeah.
I was just asking, are you promoting Sprout? We launched that like a month ago.
Wow, that's good.
Wellness program a month ago, because we really saw that it's what our clients needed and what employees need. So
mental health. Because if you don't solve it, you don't get them to their optimum performance. Simple as that. So we needed to solve like that minor problem, but often they mislook. So mental health, I would like to support that. And when the lockdown happened, Mark, I'm sure your team also didn't have this kind of problem. When the lockdown happened, our work is still the same because we've been always been agile. for the longest time. I can even I can launch an event from the US, which I did. It's very agile. I would like to have this like an advocation for companies to have a level of agility in their company if it's really traditional, because work from home or remote work is here gonna stay. It's still gonna stay for some time. I don't think even if we have all that vaccines here, I'm not sure yet what's gonna pan out, but it gave companies now a different outlook on how to contain cost, bring up team performance using this kind of culture, whether they choose remote work or work from home, which is two different kinds of things. And I would love them to have create new policies for learning and development. That's why I've been stressing data-driven automation. And number fourth, and the most strong, and I'm sure you all agree with me, they should have considered strongly in their organization total digital transformation. Even restaurants should have that kind of culture as well.
Well, they need to survive, and I'm a strong believer in my business supports digitization of processes and stuff, including e-learning. So e-learning, almost every industry needs an app or software, or almost every industry will have software involved or data, like you mentioned, data technology and stuff. So the people today, whether young or old, need to retrain or train themselves up to be useful to companies in the future, or to be able to create their own startups as well. So anyway, that's I think we covered almost all the bases there.